Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new deep dive. We just love Jujutsu Kaisen around here, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at something that I think has had fans debating for ages.
Yeah.
Character power levels.
Oh, absolutely. Like, who are the strongest characters? Who are the,
Yeah,
up-and-comers? And who are the ones that you just don't want to mess with?
exactly. And we've got some really interesting insights from a podcast that actually ranks these characters based on their power, personality, and overall impact on the Jujutsu Kaisen world.
Yeah, what's so cool about this podcast is that they don't just throw out random numbers. They really break down why each character is ranked the way they are,
I like that.
They go deep into the cursed techniques, the personalities, like even their motivations for fighting.
It's a whole analysis.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start at the top.
Okay.
The characters who are basically forces of nature. When it comes to cursed energy, you're talking about the ones who could potentially reshape the world as we know it.
Right. The heavy hitters.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah.
And I think we all saw this coming, but the undisputed champion, the one at the very top, is Satoru Gojo.
Of course.
This podcast gives him a perfect 10 out of 10, and honestly, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, Gojo's power is practically legendary, and it all comes down to his limitless cursed technique. And the six eyes, the limitless technique lets him manipulate space at an atomic level.
It's literally slow down time.
Exactly. It's insane. He's basically untouchable. And then you add the six eyes on top of that, which give him this crazy level of perception.
I've heard it described as like X-ray vision, but for cursed energy.
It's wild. He can see everything in such detail. It's no wonder he's at the top.
So basically, he's the ultimate jujutsu sorcerer, untouchable and all-seeing. But hold on.
What?
Because this podcast throws out a really interesting question.
Okay.
Who could destroy the world?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's where things get really interesting, because even with Gojo's seemingly unmatched power, there's another contender, and they give him a 9.5 out of 10.
Okay, who is it?
It's Sukuna,
Sukuna.
the king of curses.
Oh, man, that makes a lot of sense.
Right, and think of it, we haven't even seen his full power unleashed yet, because he's bound to Yuji.
Yeah, but even with that limited access, we've seen glimpses of his power, and it's terrifying.
It is. His cursed energy reserves are enormous. His techniques like cleave and dismantle are just brutal. And let's be real, he's got that ruthlessness that just makes him so menacing.
Yeah, he's not messing around.
Not at all. It's kind of crazy to think that even Gojo might have a rival in Sukuna. But wait, there's more.
More.
We also have Yuta Okotsu,
Oh, yeah, Yuta.
who they gave a 9 out of 10 to. And let me tell you, his power is as heartbreaking as it is destructive.
You're so right, because his power comes from Rika, right? His childhood friend.
It's a manifestation of her.
And their bond is what gives him access to this enormous amount of cursed energy, but it's fueled by so much emotion.
Love and loss, it's heavy stuff.
It makes his character so much more complex than just, a powerhouse.
Right. So we've got our top three, the absolute powerhouses, the ones who could level cities.
World enders.
World enders. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about our main trio.
Mm-hmm.
Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara, the heart and soul of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Love them.
They might not be on Gojo's level just yet, but don't underestimate
Oh,
it.
absolutely not. They're growing so fast.
For Yuji, with his incredible physical strength and that connection to Sukuna, gets an 8.5 out of 10 for power.
The kid's got insane potential, right? And he's already so strong.
He is. And don't forget his resilience and speed and his heart.
Yeah,
If we were rating that, it'd be a 10 out of 10.
for sure. He's like a golden retriever in human form. You can't help but root for him.
The best golden retriever. But then we have Megumi, who's all about strategy and technique.
Yeah, the brains of the operation.
Totally. The podcast gives him an 8 out of 10, but you could just tell his potential for growth is huge.
It is, and his 10 Shadows technique is so versatile.
So many possibilities.
Right, he can summon all these different Shikigami with unique abilities. It's like having a whole army at your disposal.
And as he masters those techniques and expands his Shikigami collection, his power level is only going to go up.
Definitely.
And last but certainly not least, we have Nobara, who is fierce, independent, and absolutely brutal with her cursed technique.
Don't mess with Nobara.
They ranked her at an 8.5, which feels right on the money.
Yeah.
She's got this really interesting technique called resonance.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool and kind of creepy at the same time.
It is. She uses these everyday tools like nails and a hammer,
Mm.
but she weaponizes them with her cursed energy.
She'll, like, hit a cursed spirit with a nail that's already embedded in something else, like a straw doll.
Right, and it creates this resonance that damages both the doll and the target simultaneously.
It's like voodoo, but with a Jujutsu Kaisen twist.
Exactly, and it's super effective. She's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Agreed.
Okay, so we've covered the Powerhouses, our amazing main trio.
Yeah.
But what about the other characters? You know, the ones who might not be aiming to destroy the world,
Right.
but still pack a serious punch. And let's be real, steal our hearts.
I mean the fan favorites?
The fan favorites, exactly. We have to talk about them.
I mean, there's so many to choose from.
I know, right? Like, even if they're not exactly shaking up the top tier of the power rankings, they still make such a huge impact, you know?
Right, like Mei, for example.
Oh, yeah, Mei. She's a fascinating one.
She's all business when it comes to jujutsu sorcery, you know?
And her Blackbird technique, it seems so simple at first glance, but it's so effective.
She's got those crows working overtime. I mean, she uses them for everything from stouting to, like, delivering these super precise attacks.
So how about multitasking?
And remember, she's not afraid to use her skills for, you know, financial gain.
She's definitely got her priorities straight.
She knows her worth.
Totally. Then you have someone like Yuta who brings like this whole different energy to the mix.
Yeah, Yuta is a tough one.
Strict, disciplined, and so dedicated to her students at Kyoto Jujutsu High.
She's a great example of how important mentors are in this world, you know?
Absolutely. She represents that guidance and support that these young sorcerers need.
Right, because it's a crazy, dangerous world out there.
Especially when you're dealing with curses and all that.
And her students really respect her, even if they find her a little intimidating sometimes.
I could see, okay, but now for a character that always brings a smile to my face.
Yeah, who is it?
Panda.
Panda.
Come on, you gotta love Panda.
Oh, absolutely. Panda's the best.
A talking, fighting panda bear created by a cursed corpse.
It's just so unique and unexpected, you know?
Right, and he's got this playful personality, but he's also surprisingly insightful.
Don't underestimate him, though. He's seriously strong and durable, and he can even switch between different forms, you know?
Yeah, depending on the situation.
To adapt to different fighting styles.
He's one of a kind, that's for sure. And then there's Tugi Inumaki,
Oh, yeah.
who, even though he doesn't say much, has one of the most powerful and risky techniques in the series.
Cursed speech.
It's wild he can basically control people with his words.
But it's dangerous, too, which is why he limits his vocabulary to just a few words.
Like salmon and tuna, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating how his limitations actually highlight his strength of character.
Totally. He chooses his words so carefully, knowing the impact they can have.
Sometimes silence is the most powerful weapon.
Okay, but now we have to talk about some more villains, right?
We touched on Mahito, Geto, and Jogo.
But there are so many others who deserve our attention. Like, what about some of those cursed spirits who really pushed our heroes to their limits?
Oh, there are quite a few.
Like Hanami.
Hanami's a really interesting one because they represent this, like, deep connection to nature and this hatred for humanity's destruction, you know?
They're terrifying, but you can also kind of understand their motivation.
Right. It's like they're trying to protect something they care about, even if their methods are extreme.
It adds a layer of complexity to the whole conflict.
Totally. It makes you question who the real villains are in this story.
Right? Are the humans with their disregard for the environment the real problem? Or are the curses just trying to defend their world?
It's not an easy question to answer.
And then you have someone like Dagon, the cursed spirit who controls like an entire ocean domain.
His fight against Megumi and Yuji was intense.
He pushed them to their absolute limits.
They had to work together and really strategize to even stand a chance against him.
It was like watching them level up in real time.
And speaking of villains who pushed our heroes to their limits, we can't forget about the cursed womb death paintings.
Oh yeah, especially Iso and Kichizu.
They were specifically created to kill Sukuna.
With their unique abilities like Iso's blood manipulation and Kichizu's rotting curse, they were terrifying opponents.
And their fight against Nobara and Yuji was a real turning point in the series.
It showed us how far Nobara was willing to go to protect her friends.
And the devastating consequences of these battles.
That fight was heavy.
Yeah, it really showed the strength of those bonds between our heroes, even when facing unimaginable darkness.
It was a powerful reminder that love and loyalty and sacrifice can exist even in a world filled with curses and danger.
It's moments like that that make this series so emotionally resonant, you know?
It's not just about the fights. It's about what those fights represent, the bonds they create, and the sacrifices they make.
It's about the human element in this supernatural world.
Okay, so we've talked about powerhouses, protagonists, fan favorites, and villains.
I think we've covered a lot of ground.
We have, but I still want to go deeper into the impact these characters have on the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. You know, it's so much more than just their power levels.
Absolutely. I think the real impact goes way beyond their individual strengths and weaknesses.
It's about how they shape the story, how they challenge our perceptions, and what they contribute to those bigger themes and messages that make Jujutsu Kaisen so captivating.
Right, because it's a story that really makes you think.
And remember that idea we talked about earlier about cursed energy being like a metaphor for the burdens and challenges these characters face?
Oh yeah, it's not just a source of power.
It's like a reflection of their inner struggles.
The weight they carry.
Think about Yuji.
Right.
He's constantly battling to control Sukuna's power within him.
It's not just about mastering physical techniques, it's about conquering those inner demons.
So true. It's like cursed energy is intertwined with their emotions, their past traumas, and their sense of purpose.
Makes their battles so much more than just physical confrontations.
Right. They're fighting on multiple levels, external and internal.
And when you look at those power dynamics between someone like Gojo, who seems to control his immense power effortlessly,
Yeah.
and Yuji, who's constantly struggling with the curse inside him, it adds this whole other layer of complexity to the narrative.
It makes you wonder if real strength is about mastering your power or learning to coexist with it even when it feels like it might consume you.
That's a really interesting question, and one that I think Jujutsu Kaisen handles really well.
It's not just good versus evil. It's about understanding power, both internal and external, and finding the courage to face the darkness.
Both within yourself and in the world around you.
And that's what makes it so much more than your average shonen anime, right? It's got action and humor and incredible characters, but it also dives into these deeper themes of identity and responsibility.
And the complexities of human nature.
It's entertaining and thought-provoking all at the same time.
And I think the relationships between the characters are fascinating too, especially those mentor-student relationships.
Oh yeah, those are key.
They really play a crucial role in shaping who these sorcerers become, both in terms of their abilities and as individuals.
Like Gojo and his students.
He's such a unique mentor, so powerful, but also playful and sarcastic.
Well, he genuinely cares about their growth.
He pushes them to their limits, but he also believes in their potential.
And encourages them to find their own path.
He's not trying to create copies of himself.
He wants them to become the best versions of themselves.
And then you have someone like Nanami, who's more of a tough love mentor.
But his guidance is so valuable. Remember when he talks to Yuji about finding meaning in his work?
Oh yeah, that scene was powerful.
It highlighted the idea that being a jujutsu sorcerer isn't just about fighting curses.
It's about protecting people and making a difference.
Finding a purpose that makes those sacrifices and risks worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Gojo and Nanami. They're shaping these young sorcerers, not just in terms of their abilities, but in how they view the whole world of jujutsu sorcery. You know?
It's about their perspective and their purpose.
Exactly. But let's not forget about the impact the villains have on our heroes, too.
Oh, right, because those confrontations, they go way beyond just like physical strength.
They really do.
They force Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara to really grapple with some tough questions, you know?
About life and humanity and everything.
Yeah, like Mahito and Geto, they don't just pose a physical threat, they challenge our heroes' beliefs.
They get in their heads.
Right, their understanding of humanity, even their own sense of self.
It's almost like they're trying to break them down mentally and emotionally.
Totally, they're trying to make them question everything, like their motivations, their purpose, even the very nature of good and evil.
And those challenges, those confrontations, they push our heroes to grow.
To evolve.
To develop this deeper understanding of themselves and the world they're living in.
And that's what makes the conflicts in Jujutsu Kaisen so captivating.
So interesting.
It's not just about who's stronger. It's about holding on to your values, your sense of self, even in the face of just unimaginable darkness.
It's about facing those inner demons and finding the strength to keep fighting for what you believe in.
And that brings us back to the central question that we've been exploring throughout our deep dive.
What does it truly mean to be powerful in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen?
Right. Is it just about raw strength like Gojo's limitless technique?
Or is it something more, something deeper?
I think the series really explores this idea that true power is a combination of things.
Like what?
Skill, strategy, willpower, and the ability to connect with others.
It's not just about how much cursed energy you have.
It's about how you use it, why you use it, and who you fight alongside.
It's like all these different ingredients in a recipe.
That's a great analogy.
You've got the raw power, the technique, the strategy, the emotional resilience, the compassion, and when those elements come together.
That's when you see true strength emerge.
I'm thinking about Maki right now.
Maki's a perfect example.
She doesn't have any cursed energy.
But she's so powerful.
Her determination, her physical abilities, and her belief in herself.
Her willpower is incredible.
And Nobara, she embraces her femininity while also being this total badass.
She shows that strength comes in so many forms.
You don't have to fit into any specific mold to be powerful.
Exactly.
And Yuji, he's got one of the most powerful curses living inside him.
But his strength comes from his empathy and his compassion.
He refuses to give up on his friends, even when things get really dark.
He shows us that you can hold on to your humanity and use your power for good.
Even in the face of all that darkness.
It's like each character is defining what strength means to them.
I love that, and that's what makes their journey so interesting to follow.
There's no one right answer when it comes to power in Jujutsu Kaisen.
It makes you really rethink those traditional ideas about what it means to be strong.
And it's such a powerful message, especially for shonen anime.
Which often focuses on physical strength and big battles.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Jujutsu Kaisen,
it's been a journey.
I have one final thought-provoking question for you.
Hit me.
Knowing what you know now about these characters and the nature of power in this world, who do you think will ultimately emerge as the biggest threat or the most crucial ally in the future of Jujutsu Kaisen?
That is a really good question, and it's one that I think we'll all be thinking about as we continue to follow this story.
What are your predictions?
I'm so curious to hear what you all think. So share your theories in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going.
Yeah, let's discuss.
Until next time, keep exploring the incredible world of Jujutsu.